Hey, JK here. I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we took a day off yesterday, but we're back to talk about the 30 teams in 30 days, and we're going to be heading to Miami to talk about the NL East 5th place team, Miami Marlins. Now, this team was 62-100 last year and had very few guys who even had 2 years with the team. The longest tenured person was Jazz Chisholm with 4.5 years. Luckily, there were other guys for the newbies to look up to because Jazz Chisholm is kind of a diva, and I'm glad he's off that team, but very upset that he's on my team now. And some of the guys that the newbies did have to look up to were Jesus Sanchez and Jake Burger. Jake Burger being new himself there in Miami. However, there was a newbie, Xavier Edwards, who absolutely burst onto the scene and is ready to make his name well known across the entire MLB. Now, the team leaders did include Burger, Sanchez, and Edwards, as we mentioned before. Edwards only played in 70 games, but he led the team in stolen bases, triples, and technically OPS, but Jake Burger actually led the team in OPS because he hit the 502 threshold. Jesus Sanchez led the team in doubles, walks, and average, while Jake Burger led the team in everything else. Power source, so you're talking about at-bats, home runs, total bases, RBIs, runs scored, also strikeouts, slugging, on-base plus slugging, so on and so forth. I want to take a deeper dive into Xavier Edwards because he's an exciting player and someone I'm probably going to be targeting moving forward. In 2023, he had 30 games in the majors and had a 300 batting average. In 24, he doubled that and more to 70 games, had a 328 batting average, and stole 31 bases. In a full 162 game season, I think he could challenge for 70 to 75 stolen bases, but that might be his only trick because in 100 games at the major league level, he's only had one home run. So being a one-trick pony on a bad team, not exactly how you're going to make your presence felt, especially fantasy-wise, unless your team has great power, great RBIs, great runs, and you just need stolen bases. Then Xavier Edwards is your man. Another young infielder I want to talk about for the Marlins is Otto Lopez. After 2 years in Toronto, he came over to Miami, sat out 2023, and now in his first full year, hit 270 with 20 stolen bases. Depending on how the lineup is looking, if Lopez hits behind Edwards, Edwards is going to be on first, putting himself in scoring position with a stolen base. So Lopez could absolutely benefit from that. There's going to be pressure on the pitcher because they are both stolen base guys. We also now know that neither guy is a home run guy. Edwards has 1 home run in 100 major league games, while Lopez has 6 home runs in 126 major league games. So they both have to put themselves in scoring position with these stolen bases to help the guys behind them, whoever that's going to be, get them around and get some runs scored for the Marlins. Sticking with the infield, someone I think that's going to be able to get them around is Connor Norby. He's a third baseman that was traded from the Orioles along with another outfield prospect for Trevor Rogers. Now let's talk about Trevor Rogers for just a second because he was on this team this year and he did participate. Outside a 2021 season that was really an outlier, he has 3 times as many losses as he does wins with a 5+ ERA and nothing really to show for it. Norby, on the other hand, absolutely does have something to show for that. In the 45 games he played at the major league level between the Orioles and the Marlins, he had 9 home runs. Expanding that out to a 162 game schedule, that's just over 32 home runs. Even on a bad team, 32 home runs can help them stumble into a few more wins. If you just take his 386 minor league games, divide that by the 162 major league games, he was still hitting right at 29 and some change home runs. This man is the real deal and actually has the confidence to go out and say that he expects to hit another 30 home runs this year to keep his standard of 30 home runs going. Now, if he's able to do that for the Marlins, he will absolutely help them get more than 62 wins and put himself up there with probably the top 10 third baseman with second base eligibility in the league. As we get to the pitching, there's only a few guys to mention, but I do want to talk about Trevor Rogers, that was in that trade for Connor Norby. Orioles, y'all definitely got the short end of that stick. Thinking y'all were getting a rotational piece? Rogers did lead the team in game start and innings pitched, but also led the team in losses, while Ryan Weathers led the team in quality starts, ERA, and WHIP. Now, I think it's funny that the team leader in wins and saves were the same person in Tanner Scott. That's impressive and embarrassing at the same time, especially because, again, he's the closer. The closer had more wins than your starting pitchers, like any of them. Ooh, Marlins. There were 2 guys that we are going to mention now that we're going to get to later. 2 holds guys, Anthony Bender and Andrew Nardi. Those 2 guys, again, are going to be mentioned later as part of the bullpen. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about the starting pitching. No pitcher had more than 105 innings pitched. As we already talked about innings pitched, that's Trevor Rogers. Not good. The best part about this team was the fact that they could have had an all-star team with their injured pitchers. We mentioned before, Ryan Weathers did lead the team in quality starts, ERA, and WHIP, although he did not meet your threshold, but nobody did. He did start 16 games and have 7 quality starts, which was the most on the team, as we mentioned before. Now, he did miss a bit of the season because of a strain in his throwing hand, so that definitely hurt him. However, he had a better ERA and a better WHIP by 1 point than the next closest person with at least 21 starts who had more starts than him. That was Trevor Rogers. Next guy we're talking about didn't actually play in 2024, but will be looking to come back and bounce back from a subpar 2023 season and look to get back to a Cy Young winning 2022 season, where Sandy Alcantara absolutely blasted everyone away with a sub-3 ERA, a great-looking WHIP, and a decent number of strikeouts per innings pitched. Now, 2023 was actually a letdown because he had a +4 ERA, had like a 1.3 WHIP, which is not great, but did throw 180 innings after a Cy Young winning season. 2025 will be a slow start for him, but if he can get back to 2022 numbers, he will absolutely be the ace of this team again. But, you know, there aren't many other guys who can be the ace of this team. Next, we're going to talk about Edward Cabrera, who was a strikeout leader in 2024. He had his innings limited because of how young he was, because of workload, but also because of IL sense. He has immense talent as a triple-digit flamethrower, but does not understand how to keep walks and home runs down. Now we're going to move to Max Meyer, who was a great young talent, overcoming Tommy John surgery to get on the field in 2024, only to have it cut short. After only a few starts with just above a 2 ERA, he unfortunately did have to go to the IL through the end of September. This man is going to be someone that they look to take over the Alcantara ace on the team, but again, injuries could limit that. Moving from someone who is hopeful to be an ace in the future to someone who was thought to be an ace in the past, Jesus Luzardo. He has only had one season where he has started 20-plus games in his career, and it's not really been the best career because otherwise he's had a 5-plus ERA. Shipping that 5-plus ERA over to the Phillies, definitely not going to hurt the Marlins, but then they're going to have another spot in the rotation that someone can get hurt in. Speaking of a rotation spot with a hurt player, that's going to be Braxton Garrett's spot. He did have to undergo his second Tommy John surgery after 2 games started, and then flexor strain, and then more strain in his shoulder. The Tommy John surgery will be the second of his career, so hopefully he will be back ready to go in 2026. Could be a stash for you in 2025. The last pitcher on this IL rotation is going to be Yuri Perez, the youngest pitcher on this entire staff. He is absolutely electric and was ready to go in 2024. However, spring training injury stopped him. Had him go under the knife for Tommy John surgery. So he's going to be out 2024 and limited in 2025. Not expecting to come back to a full workload, but 2026 should be the time where he shines. Transition to the bullpen, we did talk about how closer Tanner Scott had the most saves and wins on the team, which is not usual. However, we did talk about 2 other guys who had the most holds. They both shared 15. Andrew Nardi and Anthony Bender. Both of those guys are shaky at absolute best. While he did throw at least 60 innings last year, they both had a 4 or 5 ERA. That's not sexy when you are trying to bridge a gap to get to your closer. Now, they did bring in a few more guys, but again, not really sexy. Most impressive guy in this bullpen is newly acquired Jesus Tinoco. You don't talk about newly acquired guys in this section, but he's really the only person I'd look at in this bullpen. Did have a 3.3 ERA and a sub-1 WHIP, more strikeouts and innings pitched. So if he is the main high leverage guy, I don't know if he's going to see much playing time because I don't know how often the Marlins are going to be leading. If their pitching can stay healthy, it's obviously a huge if. Along with a healthy rotation, another big if is if Norby can actually come through on his 30 home runs. Now, again, Lopez and Edwards are going to be able to put themselves in scoring positions, again, if they can get on base. Norby is going to be able to bring them around. Jesus Sanchez is then going to bring Norby around if Norby doesn't hit a home run. So there is potential. At the end of the day, I think this team is going to be offensively driven. Don't know if the pitching rotation is going to be able to help them much at all. Definitely don't know if the bullpen is going to be able to help. So hopefully you have more than 3 runs to give up, and then maybe this bullpen will be able to get you a win. I don't think that a closer or bullpen guy will have the most wins on this team moving forward, but that's also not usually something that happens. So Jesus Sanchez is probably the best bet to do much of anything on this team. But again, gotta look at my boy Connor Norby. I like those ears, man. He's going to be here the pitch coming. Our next stop for 30 teams in 30 days is going to be in the nation's capital. We'll talk about the Washington Nationals. This team is very young and has a lot of speed. Don't think a single fly ball is going to hit the outfield as they have some speedy guys out there. This is Jake Aiken. I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me.